Hola, estudiantes, and welcome back for another exciting week of Español. This week, we will be beginning Capítulo 6, or Chapter 6, titled De Compras, or Let's Go Shopping. As we take a look in this chapter, we have some learning objectives that will guide us. By the end of this chapter, my goal is that you will be able to identify vocabulary related to clothing, colors, shopping, and also just general adjectives of description. You should also be able to recall your numbers from 101 all the way up to, say, a billion, which sounds a little scary, but don't worry, it's not. Some other things in this chapter we'll be taking a look at, grammar-wise, are indirect object pronouns, the regular preterite or past tense, demonstrative adjectives and pronouns, and then just some other general goals. I'm hoping that you'll be able to express some of your preferences while you're shopping, and that you'll be able to negotiate and pay for items should you find yourself in a situation abroad one day. So that is the goal for where we'll be going. So let's begin taking a look at a little bit of vocabulary. So de compras, we're shopping, right? So as we take a look, if you're like Senor Harrison, you like to do all of your shopping in línea, you like to comprar en línea. Or maybe you still prefer to go to that in-person almacén, the department store, como Macy's, como Belk, el almacén. Either way, your clothes will costar, they will cost something, costar. And if you're in person, you may have to go up to the caja, the cash register, in order to pay, caja. Some other terms that you see here in this chapter, we have the centro comercial, which is the mall, el centro comercial. The verb gastar, which means to spend, gastar. Generally, in these situations, you are the client, you're the customer, the person shopping, el cliente, or in the case of a female, la clienta. And in those situations, you're generally speaking to a salesperson, also known as, like, say, a clerk. So we have two terms we can use here. The literal word for salesperson is el vendedor, literally the seller from the verb vender. Or in the case of a female, la vendedora. In other general terms, say you just have like a customer service representative, you might have a dependiente, the clerk, the person working in the store. Maybe he or she is not a salesperson, but rather just someone working in the store. El dependiente or la dependienta in the case of a female. If we take a look back really quickly at this photo, you see an open air market. These are very common in other countries, specifically in Spain. I've been to several open air markets in Spain where you get to haggle and buy things. So giving you a picture of this first, an open air market in Español is el mercado al aire libre. So literally, mercado is just the market, and then al aire libre makes it an open air market. In those markets, it's very common for you to regatear, to bargain a little bit for whatever it is that you're buying. You might bargain for your fruit. You might bargain for a piece of meat that you're purchasing. You might bargain for clothing, but you get to bargain, regatear. Some other things you see, we have the word rebaja in this chapter. Rebaja is a sale. We have a regalo. A regalo is a present or a gift. When you pagar or pay, pagar, most of us in today's world, pagar con tarjeta de débito. You pay with a debit card. Or maybe you pagar con tarjeta de crédito, a credit card. But either way, pagar to pay, tarjeta card, and then it's a card of debit, tarjeta de débito, or a card of credit, tarjeta de crédito. Other verbs that we see here, we have the verb llevar, which is to wear. In some cases, it can also mean to take. If you're like me, you care about things matching. We have the verb to match, hacer juego con, hacer juego con. Other verbs we see are prestar, to lend, usar, to use or to wear, and vender, to sell, as we talked about a vendedor earlier. And then one final word, we also have la tienda, or the store. And el precio, or the price. It can also be el precio fijo if it's a fixed price and not one that you're going to regatear or bargain. So before we move on, I would like for you to practice your pronunciation skills just a little bit. So I'm going to say this word out loud in Español, and I would like for you to also say it with me. Okay? El almacén, la caja, el centro comercial, el cliente, la clienta, el dependiente, la dependienta, el mercado al aire libre, la rebaja, el regalo, la tarjeta de débito, la tienda, el vendedor, la vendedora, comprar en línea, costar, gastar, hacer juego con, llevar, pagar con, prestar, regatear, usar, vender, el precio fijo. So now that you have some words, let's add a few more. In this previous slide, we were talking about la tarjeta de débito, or a debit card. I also mentioned a tarjeta de crédito, or a credit card, which you see here. And then just in general, we have the word dinero. You may be familiar with the song, and the person who sings it escapes me, but she takes my dinero, takes my dinero. You know the song, okay. So dinero is money. And we also have la tarjeta de crédito, the credit card. Some other things, if you are like Senor Harrison, when you ir de compras, when you go shopping, you like to buy way too many corbatas. I won't tell you how many I have, corbatas. Or maybe you're a shoe person. You have el par de zapatos, a pair of shoes. So par, a pair, and zapatos, or shoes. Remember the Z makes an S sound in Spanish, so it's zapatos and not zapatos, right? So el par de zapatos, la corbata, and ir de compras. So say these with me. Ir de compras, corbata, el par de zapatos. Muy bien. All right, so some other words that we see here in this chapter relate to clothing, la ropa. Be careful, ropa is clothing and not rope. A little false cognate there. So we have la ropa y los accesorios. As we take a look at our clothing and accessories, we have el abrigo, or a coat, el abrigo. Los blujines, or los blue jeans in some countries. Also in Spain, it's common to swap out this word los jeans for los vaqueros, which literally means the cowboys. But in Spain, they call them vaqueros as well. So just for funsies there. We also have la blusa, the blouse. La bolsa, the bag or purse. Las botas, or boots. Los calcetines, or socks. La camisa, the shirt. And la camiseta, the t-shirt. Just notice the difference in these. Camisa does not have a T, but camiseta with a T does, because it's a t-shirt as opposed to a regular shirt. Maybe that will help you remember. We have also la cartera, or a wallet, la cartera. La chaqueta, or a jacket. El cinturón, or a belt. La falda, a skirt. Los guantes, the gloves. El impermeable, or a raincoat. Las medias, which are stockings or pantyhose. Los pantalones, which are pants. Or my favorite, los pantalones cortos, which literally are cut pants, also known as shorts. Los pantalones cortos. We have, in general, la ropa, the clothing, or la ropa interior, your interior clothing, also known as your underwear, your undies. We have las sandalias, your sandals. El sombrero, I think we all know is a hat, common word, sombrero. El suéter, a sweater. El traje, a suit. El traje de baño, your suit of bathing, also known as your bathing suit. El vestido, a dress. And los zapatos de tenis, or your sneakers. We also have some general adjetivos, or adjectives over here, to describe these clothing words, such as barato, cheap. Bueno, good. Cada, each. Caro, expensive. Corto, short. Elegante, elegant. hermoso, beautiful, largo, long, loco, crazy, nuevo, new, otro, other, or sometimes another, pobre, poor, and rico, rich. So these are some various vocabulary words. As we wrap up our vocab, a last couple of things I want to share with you are las gafas, which are just glasses, or you can add de sol afterwards to make them glasses of the sun, also known as sunglasses, las gafas de sol. We also have here los colores, or your colors, and you'll be using these in just a moment. So let's take a moment to go through them. We'll start here with rojo, or red, rosado, or pink, morado, purple, azul, blue, verde, green, café, brown, negro, black, gris, gray, blanco, white, amarillo, yellow, and anaranjado, or orange. Also, in La Cultura Mexicana, it's very popular to swap out this word anaranjado for naranja or naranjo, just like a real orange. So, just so you know. All right, so it's time for us to take a moment and practice all of these words you've been learning. So, escoger, time for you to choose. I'd like for you to take a look at the list of words below, and you're going to be selecting the one that does not belong. And by the way, just a quick little note here. My goal for you with these videos is that you will take a moment to actually pause your audio, work out these problems, and check your answers with me in the same way you would if you were in an in-person class, face-to-face on campus, right? That's our goal, that you have a chance to, hopefully with these videos, simulate an in-person learning experience as much as possible, so that you have a positive online learning experience. So we're going to do a couple of these together, and then I'm going to have you pause your audio and check the rest of your answers. All right, so let's begin with número uno. We see la bolsa, the bag, la camiseta, the t-shirt, la blusa, the blouse, or el suéter, the sweater. Gosh, which one doesn't belong? Well, we know it has to be la bolsa, the bag, because a camiseta, a blusa, and a suéter are all clothing items that can be worn, and a bolsa is an accessory. It's a bag. It doesn't fit into that category at all. Let's try one more together. In número dos, we see medias, which we said were pantyhose or stockings. We see calcetines or socks, a sombrero, a hat, and zapatos de tenis or tennis shoes. So as we think about these items, gosh, well, pantyhose, socks, a hat, and tennis shoes. Gosh, well, which one doesn't belong? Well, obviously, in this case, it's the sombrero, the hat. So, and that's mostly just because it's not worn on your legs, on the bottom part of your body, on your feet or your legs. Okay, I would like for you to now take a moment, pause your audio, and please practice números 3, 4, 5, y 6. When you're ready, you can unpause and we will check our answers. All right, so now that you've had a second to take a look, let's see how you're doing. In número 3, we're given chaqueta, a jacket, la falda, a skirt, el abrigo, the coat, and el impermeable, the raincoat. Of these options, la falda, the skirt, does not fit. It's not used in winter weather. It's not used to keep you warm, etc. La falda. Número 4, we have el almacén, the department store, la vendedora, the female salesperson, la tienda, the store, and el mercado, the market. Of these options, the vendedora does not fit because it is not a place where you might buy something. Número 5, we're given regatear, or to bargain, gastar, to spend, llevar, to wear, and costar, to cost. In this case, llevar does not fit because it doesn't have anything to do with money. And número 6, we're given vestido, the dress, dinero, the money, la caja, the cash register, or literally the box in some countries, and la tarjeta de crédito, the credit card. Of these options, el vestido does not fit because it does not involve money, whereas all of the others do. All right, hopefully you're beginning to feel better about your vocab. And obviously you'll spend some time studying these with your flashcards and whatnot in VHL Central. But Before we begin, or before we continue, I should say, let's take a moment to practice just a smidge using these colors and clothing items a little bit more. So now, if you were in my in-person class, I would have you partner up with someone, and I would have one partner ask you, "Oh, well, ¿de qué color es el suéter? What color is the sweater?" And you come back and say, "Oh, the sweater is gray. El suéter es gris." But in this case, online, we can't do that. So we're going to focus on you just being student B and answering what color the item is, and I'm going to be student A. So here we go, looking as an example with number one, we ask you, ¿de qué color es la corbata? Or what color is the tie? Looking at the picture, we can see the tie is pink and blue. So we said, la corbata es rosada y azul. Now notice, la corbata is a word that is feminine and it's singular. So we had to make rosada agree by also making it feminine and singular. So we said, la corbata es rosada y azul. There's a lot of people that on your homework, you're like, gosh, I put la corbata es rosado y azul. Rosado, it's pink. I don't understand. Why am I getting this wrong? Well, be careful. Remember, it has to agree in gender and number. So la corbata es rosada y azul. All right, I want you to try these others. En número dos, we ask you, ¿de qué color es la planta? Or what color is the plant? Well, obviously, the plant is green. So you should say, that's right, la planta es verde. The plant is green. Now, just for funsies, we were talking about agreement a second ago. Let's say we had multiple plants. Instead of la planta, we might have las plantas. So instead of the plants is green, we say the plants are green. Las plantas son. And then we take verde and we make it agree. Las plantas son verdes. Okay, número tres. ¿De qué color es la rosa de Texas? What color is the rose of Texas, of Texas? Well, we can see that the rose is obviously yellow. We know that la rosa is feminine and it's singular. So you should say, you got it. La rosa es amarilla. Or la rosa de Texas es amarilla. All right, awesome. So let's try just one more vocab practice activity. This is where you get to be a little bit contraria, a little bit contradictive or contrary. So we go through and the model gives you el suéter nuevo de Liliana es muy grande. So Liliana's new sweater is very big. And basically you're trying to come back with the opposite here. So no matter what she says, you're trying to have a little bit of a rebuttal. So el suéter nuevo de Liliana es grande. No, su suéter es muy pequeño. So no, her sweater is very small. It's not big, right? So you're just going back with the opposite. So número uno, we're given el cinturón de Natalia es caro. So Natalia's belt is expensive, es caro. No, it's not. Natalia's belt is cheap. What are you talking about? It is not expensive. So we're going to come back and say that. No, el cinturón de Natalia es barato. Or you could shorten it even further. Instead of Natalia's belt, say her belt. Su cinturón es barato. Both are correct. Let's try another one. En número dos, it tells us el impermeable de Don José es muy feo. I want you to pause your audio and give these next two a try. All right, let's take a look. El impermeable de Don José es muy feo. Well, Don José's rain jacket is very ugly. Well, that's rude. No, it's not. It's pretty. We should say el impermeable de Don José es muy bonito or hermoso. You also could shorten it even further and say instead of Don José's raincoat, his raincoat. So no, su impermeable es muy bonito, es muy hermoso. And one more. Los zapatos de tenis de Noelia son viejos. Her tennis shoes are old. Well, no, they're not. They're new. So let's come back and say that. No, los zapatos de tenis de Noelia son nuevos. Or you could shorten it even further. Sus zapatos de tenis son nuevos. All right, so we spent some time with your vocab. We're going to move into our first grammar point, gramática 6.1, which is about numbers from 101 and higher. So in this case, your book classifies this as grammar, but it's really just kind of more of a vocab. It's just a matter of memorizing the words and what they mean. So we start with 100 cien, and we kind of add up. So the second you cross 100 and you enter 101, 102, 103, we add a TO to the end of cien. It becomes ciento. And then you just add your numbers. So 101, ciento uno, 102, ciento dos, 105, ciento cinco, right? But it always has the to. Likewise, when you get in the hundreds, 200, 300, 400, so on and so forth, it's really just a matter of taking the number that you know, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, and slapping it in front. So 200, doscientos. 300, trescientos. 400, cuatrocientos. Now, I put a star next to 5, 7, and 9 because they don't work like that, right? You can just slap your normal number in front. Doscientos, trescientos, cuatrocientos, seiscientos, ochocientos for those. But 5, 7, and 9 have to be weird. They do their own little thing. You would think, looking at 5, that it would become cincocientos. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It changes to quinientos. Maybe you think of quince or 15, right? Quinientos, 500. So, doscientos, trescientos, cuatrocientos, quinientos, seiscientos. When we get to 700, instead of plopping the number siete in front, which is S-I-E-T-E, we just lose the I. Instead of sietecientos, it becomes setecientos, sete. And then we have 800, ochocientos, and 900, novecientos, kind of like noventa, right? Novecientos instead of nueve, novecientos. You also have 1,000, mil, and let's pause for a little fun fact here. Notice mil is 1,000 is written as 1.000. In Spanish, the decimals and commas are kind of like inverted. So instead of 1,000, as we might see here in the United States, in Spanish-speaking culture, it's common to place a zero there, or excuse me, a decimal there. So we have 1.000 for 1,000. So mil. That continues all the way up. So 1,100, 1.1000. 2,000, 2,000, 2.000. 5,000, 5,000, 5.000, and it continues all the way on up. Literally, you just take the word mil and you slap the number in front. So 2,000, 2,000. 5,000, 5,000. 100,000, 100,000. 200,000, 200,000. Just literally taking the normal number and slapping it in front of mil. Where things get to get a little bit more complicated is with a million. So be careful. Mil is 1,000, whereas un millón is a million. Maybe you want to grow up and be a millonario, a millionaire, a millón, million, versus mil or 1,000. Okay, a few little nitpicky things here about grammar. Again, it's really just a matter of memorizing these numbers, but just a few little nitpicky things. When we're counting, as we just were on the previous slide, 101, 102, 103, we always just leave it as ciento, right, with an O. Ciento uno, ciento dos, ciento tres. But when we're describing a quantity of something, like let's say we want to say 101 nights, noches. Ciento una noches. So we made it una to agree with noches, which is feminine. So ciento una noches. The same is true for numbers 200 through 999. These will agree in gender with the noun that they modify. So for example, 324 stores or tiendas. Well, we know that tiendas is feminine and we know it is plural because it ends in as. So we make it agree. 324 tiendas, right? So cientas with an as agreeing with tiendas. 873 habitaciones or rooms. Well, we know habitaciones is feminine and it's singular as well. So instead of 800, we said 800, and then we just finish it out. 73 habitaciones. The word mil can mean either 1,000 or 1,000. We don't have to say, I'm bringing that up because we don't have to say uno mil. We just say mil, 1,000, not uno mil. Same thing with the others, 5,000, 5,000. You just don't say uno mil, just mil. Okay, and just be careful also with million. Millón, that we've already talked about, million has an accent on the O, whereas when you pluralize it and you add es, it loses its accent. So millón, million, Millones, millions. No accent. Hey, if you're like me, you'll never have to worry about having millions, so not a big deal. Haha, okay. All right, so we continue on as well. Just one fun fact here. In English, when we talk about years, like you see this year here, 1979, we pronounce that 1979, right? We give 19 as a number and then we give 79. But in Espanol, that's not how we do it at all. We would read that year as 1979. Yeah, weird, I know, right? So, gosh, you were born in 2003. Well, 2003. Or maybe your parents were born in 1980, right? 1980, 1980, not 19 and then 80. So just keep that in mind. So for example, 1979 is written as 1979, 1979, just like that. They do this also with street numbers. So mi dirección es, my address is, Balcarce 1283, literally 1283, or we would say 1283, right? But that's not how it works for them. 1283. So be careful. A last little note about the word de. Whenever we pluralize these and we're saying, gosh, we have thousands or we have hundreds or we have millions of something, we use the word de afterwards. So cientos de personas, hundreds of person. Miles de dólares, thousands of dollars. Un millón de hombres, a million men, right? So we just go through and add de. Okay, this last one is going to scramble your brain up a little bit, okay? So this always kills me. We have millones, which we know are millions, and then mil millones, literally 1,000 millions or a billion. Mil millones. It's a lot to wrap your brain around. Mil millones. We also have un billón, which is not a billion, because again, that's mil millones. A billion is un billón is a trillion. So just be careful with that. Mil millones, a billion. Un billón, a trillion. So a lot to keep in your brain there. All right, so we need to take a moment and practice these now. So take a deep breath. I'm going to make you do some matemáticas. What? Senor Harrison, you said this was la clase de español, not la clase de matemáticas. What? Okay, yes, you're going to do some matemáticas, but don't worry, it's not super high level math, okay? So for example, well, before we get started, you're going to need to know some words. So we have más, which means more. Maybe you're familiar with the Taco Bell commercial, live más, live more. So we have más or more plus addition. Menos, less, minus, subtraction. Es, which is kind of like equals, or son, also kind of like equals, literally is an R. In most cases, you're going to be using son because these are plural numbers. So for example, in the model, you see 300 plus 400 equals 700. So we say it just like that. 300, 300, más, plus, 400, 400, son, equals 700, 700. And notice that 700 does not have an I. It's not 700, but 700. All right, so let's let you practice a little bit. In numero uno, I'm giving you an easy math problem. 150 plus 150, we know that should give us 300, right? So we go through and we do our math. We have 150, which is 150, plus más, again, 150, 150, equals, son, and then we get 300, 300. So 150 más 150 son 300, just like that. Let's try one more. We have 3,000 plus 753. I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, give this one a try, and when you're ready, you can unmute. All right, let's check it out. Let's see how you're doing. So we have 3,000, 3,000, plus, más, 700, 750, 50, and 3, y tres. And we know that gives us 3,753. So we're going to start with equals, son, and then 3,753, just like that. So just kind of going through doing your math. Another area where you might see these math problems or these numbers is back with clothing items. You're shopping, right? De compras. You're going to need to pay for things, unfortunately. So as we go through, you might need these numbers. So again, if you were in an in-person class, I would have you turn to your neighbor. We would practice speaking together, but we are online, so I'm going to be estudiante uno and you're going to be estudiante dos. So, for example, you see some gafas de sol up here, some sunglasses that cost not just 40 pesos, but 40,000 pesos. Remember, the decimal is inverted for a comma in Espanol. And we're asking you, ¿cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost? Or ¿cuánto cuestan? How much do they cost? So how much do the glasses cost? ¿Cuánto cuestan las gafas de sol? Well, they cost 40,000 pesos. 40,000 pesos. 40,000 pesos. Let's try another one. In número uno, I'm going to ask you about the dress. ¿Cuánto cuesta el vestido? How much does the dress cost? Well, you see it costs 210,000 pesos. So you're going to start with el vestido cuesta, the dress cost, and then you're going to add that number. So el vestido cuesta, well, 200, what do you think? Yeah, cuesta 210 pesos. Just like that. 210, so 210, and then we need 1,000, mil pesos. I know it's probably a lot to wrap your brain around that. Gosh, these items are so expensive, Professor Harrison. Well, remember, these are pesos, so I don't have the conversion chart memorized, but if you look up just any kind of conversion calculator online, you can see how these equate to dollars, and it's not as much as you think. Let's try another one. So, ¿cuánto cuestan los pantalones cortos? How much do the shorts cost? Well, you can see over here they cost 61,500 pesos. So you're going to tell me. Very good, very good. Los pantalones cortos cuestan 61,000, so 61,000, 61,500 pesos. All right, awesome. So, let's change gears here for just a moment. We've been talking about vocabulario a lot with your clothing and your numbers from 101 through a trillion. Now, let's take a moment and transition to probably the most important grammar topic of this unit, which is Gramática 6.2 about regular preterite verbs. And the preterite is just one of the two past tenses in Espanol. We have the preterite and we have the imperfect. So in this chapter, capítulo 6, we're learning about just the regular preterite, and we'll kind of slowly take you through the preterite in the next couple of chapters. And then at the end, we'll learn the imperfect. And then at the end of Español 2, you'll wrap up the preterite versus the imperfect. So as we kind of flip through this here and check it out, we're going to start with just the preterite. But before we do that, let's flash back to the past for a moment and take a look at the regular present tense. So I said we're learning about the past, the preterite. So instead of I talk, we might say I talked, or instead of I speak, I spoke, right? So the past. But just to refresh your memory about the present, let's take a look. So we have this verb hablar. You may recall when conjugating verbs, our first step, we're going to chop off that AR. We're going to carry down the stem, what's left, which in this case is HABL. So I always tell my students we're going to hobble on down like the Wobble song. Hobble baby, hobble baby, hobble baby, hobble yeah. We're going to hobble down, HABL, in all of our boxes. Next up, we're going to add our present tense endings. So I speak, hablo. You speak, hablas. He or she speaks, habla. We speak, hablamos. You all in Spain speak, habláis. And they speak, hablan. These are your various present tense AR verbs. We also have ER verbs like comer, to eat. Again, step one, chop off your ER. Carry down the COM, the stem, in all of your boxes. And then add your endings. So I eat, como. You eat, comes. He or she eats, come. We eat, comemos. You all in Spain eat, coméis. And they eat, comen. This works for IR verbs as well. Like we have the verb escribir, to write. So again, chop off your IR, carry down the escrib, and then add your present tense endings. Escribo, escribes, escribe, escribimos, escribís, and escribe. So now that you know how to conjugate verbs in the present, or now that you've reflected on what you already knew about conjugating verbs in the present, let's transition to talking about conjugating verbs in the preterite, in the past. Well, the process is pretty similar. You still chop off your AR, you still carry down the stem, HABL. What's different is just the ending you're putting on. So to say I spoke, we had an E with an accent, pronounced as E. So hablé, I spoke. In the to form, to say you spoke, we add the ending aste. So hablaste, you spoke. In the he or she form, he or she spoke, we add an O, but be careful, this O has an accent. So habló, habló, he or she spoke. In the nosotros form, hablamos. Notice it is the same as the present tense, so you have to be careful looking at the context. Gosh, is it we speak or is it we spoke? We have to look at the context to see. In the vosotros form, we add astes, so hablastes, you all in Spain spoke. And in the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, we add arron, so they spoke or y'all spoke. So let's take a moment and just review these endings. So we have aste, o, amos, astes, arron. These are your various endings for the preterite for AR verbs. Now, this also works for ER and IR verbs. Luckily for you, AR verbs have their own endings, like we just talked about. Aste, o, amos, astes, arron. ER, IR verbs share one set of endings, so they're the same for ER and IR verbs. So for example, process is the same, chopping off the ER, carrying down the COM. This time, we add E, I with an accent, pronounced as E, in the to form, iste, the he or she, io, the nosotros, imos, the vosotros, istes, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes, ieron. So let's take a moment and review those. So, iste, io, imos, istes, ieron. So instead of I eat, I ate, comí. You ate, comiste. He or she ate, comió. We ate, comimos. You all in Spain ate, comistes. And they or y'all ate, comieron. Again, same endings for IR verbs. So chop off your IR, carry down the escrib, and slap those same endings on there. Iste, yo, imos, istes, ieron. So I wrote, escribí. You wrote, escribiste. He or she wrote, escribió. We wrote, escribimos. You all in Spain wrote, escribistes. And they or you all wrote, escribieron. So these are your various preterite conjugations. And here they are, all summarized. Just be careful to remember that the yo and the él, ella, usted form do have accents, whereas the others do not. And I already mentioned this, but the nosotros forms are identical for AR and IR verbs. So for example, compramos, well, it can mean we buy or it can mean we bought. You kind of have to look at the context. So in invierno, compramos suéteres. In winter, we buy sweaters. But anoche, last night, compramos unas sandalias. Last night we bought some sandals. Compramos. So just be careful to look at the context before you make your decision there. Another thing to note, in Español Uno, you learned about stem changing verbs, right? And they only change when they're in the boot. They can change from E to IE, from O to UE, from U to UE, from E to I, and they're only changing when they're in the boot. Well, good news for you, in the preterite, AR and ER verbs, even if those ER and AR verbs have a stem change in the present, they do not have a stem change in the preterite. Now, I hear you asking, well, Senor Harrison, what about IR verbs? Well, IR verbs we're just going to talk about later. Let's not worry about those right now. But AR and ER verbs, they do not have a stem change in the preterite. The IRs do, and it's weird, and I'm going to tell you about it in the next chapter. All right, so let's pause. Give your brain a moment to practice a little bit. So you hear Isabel speaking here, and Isabel is telling us about her weekend. So she's probably talking in the yo form a lot. So she's telling her own story of her own weekend. So in número uno, she says, "Pasar un fin de semana fantástico," or "I passed a great weekend. I had a fantastic weekend." So she's trying to say "I had." So we're going to take that verb pasar. We're going to conjugate it by chopping off our AR, and we're going to say that yo pasé. I passed an awesome weekend. Pasé un fin de semana fantástico. Let's do one more, and then I'll let you try some. Número dos, she says, el sábado, on Saturday, estudiar por la mañana. On Saturday, I studied in the morning. So I studied, we're going to take estudiar. Again, chop off your AR and throw your E with an accent on the end. So, el sábado, estudié por la mañana. I studied in the morning. Y luego, salir de compras con mis amigas al nuevo centro comercial. So on Saturday, I studied in the morning, and then I went shopping, salir de compras, con mis amigas al nuevo centro comercial, with my friends at the new mall. So we took salir. She said, I went shopping. We're going to chop off our IR. Be careful, since this is an IR verb. Throw back your I with an accent. Salí de compras. Now, before you attempt the rest of these, numbers 4 through 9 may be helpful for you to jot down those preterite endings for AR, ER, and IR verbs. Make sure you have those somewhere. Maybe you already did that. You were taking notes before, but if not, make sure you have those in front of you. That should help you. And I just want you to pause your audio and give the rest of these a try. When you're ready, you can unmute. All right, so let's take a look. In número cuatro, it tells us that comprar un vestido y un suéter muy baratos porque el vendedor me hizo un buen descuento. So, to buy a dress and a sweater really cheap because the salesperson made me a really good discount, gave me a really awesome discount. So, instead of to buy, we want to say I bought. So, Isabel is going to chop off the AR in comprar, and she's going to say I bought. Yo compré un vestido y un suéter. Número 5. Gastar solo $40. So we know that gastar is to spend. She's trying to say that I spent only, solo, $40, only $40. So again, we take gastar, we chop off our AR, and we throw in the E with an accent. Gasté solo $40. Más tarde, a little bit later, nosotros comer en un restaurante mexicano. So afterwards, we ate at a Mexican restaurant. So we're going to take the verb comer, we're going to chop off our ER, and to say we ate, we're adding back imos. So más tarde, comimos en un restaurante mexicano. Número 7. Mi amiga Estela gastar mucho dinero porque pidió platos muy caros. So my friend Estela, she spent a lot of money because she ordered some very expensive dishes. So she spent, we're going to take gastar, chop off our AR, and say that she spent, adding back the O with the accent. Mi amiga gastó mucho dinero. Por la noche, in the evening, nosotros salir a bailar a una discoteca. So in the evening, we went out dancing in a discoteca, in a little club, a little dance bar. So we went out dancing. Nosotros salimos. We just chop off our I and salir and add imos. So we went out dancing, and regresar muy tarde. We returned very late. So again, we take regresar, chop off our AR. We returned, regresamos muy tarde. And then we'll just finish it up. Hoy me levanté muy temprano. So today I got up very early porque tengo que estudiar para la clase de español. Hoy estoy muy cansada. Or qué cansada estoy. So I got up early because I had to study for my Spanish class, and I'm so tired. All right, so the best way to learn these preterite conjugations is simply to practice. So if you find yourself needing more practice, there's a website with a cute little frog, a little rana here, and the website is known as Conjuguemos, or Let's Conjugate. And I highly recommend Conjuguemos. I've included a link here to a regular practice, a regular preterite practice. So basically, you just click on the link, and it will ask you to go through, and it's like a graded quiz. So you just click start here, and it gives you a grade. And you get like a percentage of accuracy. And it's like a little race. A timer sets for 5 minutes. You answer as many questions as you can, and it gives you, gosh, out of 5 minutes, you conjugated 100 verbs and you got 99 of them correct. So, and it gives you a little score. This is just a learning tool for you. It's not required. It's not actually going to be a grade. It's just here if you feel like, man, I would like to practice these spontaneously, make sure I get good and fast at my conjugations. Well, this is a great way to do that. And the faster you get at your conjugations, the faster you will acquire those speaking and writing and reading and listening skills. So it's a great tool. All right, so as we continue our discussion on the regular preterite verbs, I do want to talk to you about verbs that end in car, gar, or sar. These are irregular verbs, but they only change in the yo form. Only in the yo form. And a little jingle to help you remember, we know that car verbs change to que, gar verbs change to ge, and zar verbs change to se. So, for example, let's take a verb that you know, tocar, like tocar la guitarra, to play the guitar. You would think that tocar worked like all your other verbs. If I hadn't just told you it was weird, you would just chop off your AR, you would carry down the tok in all the boxes. It's an AR verb, so you would slap your regular preterite endings on there, aste, o, amos, aste, cenaron, and you'd be almost right. All of these are correct, except instead of tose, we know that car verbs change to que. So in this process, instead of chopping off the AR, you're going to chop off the whole car, the CAR, and car verbs change to que. We get toque. So toque, tocaste, tocó, tocamos, tocastes, tocaron. All the others are normal except for the yo form, where the car verbs are going to change to que, gar verbs are going to change to ge, and sar verbs are going to change to se. One other thing I would like to let you know about with the preterite, we do have some verbs that have spelling changes, and this is mostly because of pronunciation. There are three verbs with which this happens very commonly. Those verbs are creer, to believe, leer, to read, and oír, to hear. And these only change in these bottom two boxes. My former students have liked to call these sandal verbs. You know, in Spanish 1, we learned about how our stem changers change only in the boot. They were boot verbs. Well, we call these sandal verbs. They're changing only down here in the sandal or in the chancla, if you will. So as we go through, let's take a verb like creer. If you follow your normal preterite rules, you chop off your ER in creer, you carry down the stem, cre, C-R-E, in all your boxes. You slap those regular endings on there, iste, yo, imos, istes, ieron, and you're almost correct. We're good with creí, we're good with creíste, we're good with creímos, and we're good with creístes. Where we begin to have a problem is with these bottom two boxes. Instead of creyó and creyeron, you almost actually hear what happens there. There are three vowels that are side by side in Spanish, and that's kind of like a no-no. Creyó, creyó, creyó. You kind of start to hear it. That I changes to a Y. It's just a spelling change, and it mostly happens just because of pronunciation. If you're saying it quickly and correctly enough, creí, creíste, creyó, right? It just kind of happens. C-R-E-I-O, creyó. It just changes to a Y. So naturally, we changed its spelling to a Y as well. Creyó and creyeron. This happens with really any of these verbs that are ending in three vowels. So leer, destruir, creer. And again, it's only happening in the sandal, in the third person, singular and plural boxes. So we have leí, leíste, but leyó. Leímos, leístes, but leyeron. I'm sorry, same for the others. Oyó, oyeron. Creyó, creyeron. So all the way through, just like that. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Finally, I want to bring your attention to some trigger words that are commonly associated with the preterite. These are words, whenever you see them, you know we're always going to use the preterite. Right now, you're probably like, gosh, why do I care about that? Well, right this moment, you might not, but when we begin studying the imperfect, the other past tense, and having you differentiate between the two, you will care. So let's just take a moment to make sure you are fully aware of what these mean. So we have anoche, last night, anteayer, the day before yesterday, ayer by itself, just yesterday, el año pasado, last year. Really anything with the word pasado is going to trigger the preterite. So it could be el lunes pasado, last Monday, or el sábado pasado, last Saturday. Any of those are going to trigger the preterite. De repente, all of a sudden or suddenly. Desde blank hasta blank. So from blank until blank. Desde lunes hasta viernes. From Monday through Friday. We've already talked about pasado, anything with pasado. La semana pasada, speaking of last week. Una vez, once or one time. Dos veces, two times or twice. And ya, or already. Here's some examples. Ayer compré una camisa. Yesterday, I bought a shirt. Well, naturally, you're saying yesterday, it's going to trigger the past tense, right? Miré la televisión anoche. I watched TV last night. Well, obviously, you're saying last night, going to trigger the preterite, anoche. And then finally, just some useful phrases. Maybe you hear a loud noise and your mom walks in and says, ¿Qué hiciste? What did you do? ¿Qué hiciste? Or maybe you're more polite about it. ¿Qué hizo usted? What did you formal do? Or maybe you and your friends are making a lot of noise downstairs and she walks in, ¿Qué hicieron ustedes? What did y'all do? Or ¿Qué hizo él? What did he do? ¿Qué hizo ella? What did she do? ¿Qué hicieron ellos? What did they do? All right. One final little note here. Another common way to express things that have happened in the past, you could just say, compré un suéter. I bought a sweater using the regular preterite. Another kind of workaround is sometimes in Spanish you want to include the word just. Like instead of I bought a sweater, I just bought a sweater. Like literally just walked out of Belk or Macy's, like just bought this sweater, right? So we take compré un suéter and we use the construction acabar de plus an infinitive. So we could just conjugate acabar actually in the present tense, not even in the preterite. And we just say, acabo de comprar un suéter. I have just to buy a sweater. Acabo de comprar, or I just bought. Acabo de comprar un suéter. Acabas de ir de compras. You just went shopping. Okay, so just a little workaround there for you as well with the preterite. All right, so let's have one last practice opportunity before we move on to our next grammar topic. More practice here with the preterite. So again, just straight up conjugation. We have Elena and celebrar. So Elena to celebrate. We're going to chop off our AR and say that Elena celebrated. Elena celebró. Número dos, ellos and oír, they and to hear. We take oír, we are going to chop off the IR and add our regular preterite ending, I-E-R-O-N. We see when that happens, we have three vowels, which is a no-no in español in the preterite. And so it's one of those irregular third person spelling changes. So it changes to oyeron, oyeron. All right, so just for the sake of time, I would like for you to try the rest of these numbers 3 through 10 all at once and pause your audio. And when you're ready, I will project the answers up and let you check all of them. All right, let's take a look and see how you did. So, Emilio y yo compramos, we bought. Los niños comieron, they ate. Usted salió, you formal, left or went out, using that bottom left box, salió. Yo llegué, I arrived, be careful. Gar verb, we're taking off the whole gar, llegué. I began, empezar, be careful. Sar verb, taking off the whole sar and adding se, so empecé. You sold, tú vendiste. Y'all wrote, ustedes escribieron. And Juan saw, Juan vio. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. I hope you're feeling better about the preterite. I'd like for us now to take a look at Gramática 6.3 or indirect object pronouns. Basically, an indirect object pronoun just answers the question to or for whom an action is done. So, for example, Roberto le prestó 100 pesos a Luisa. So, Roberto loaned 100 pesos to Luisa. Well, to or for whom did he loan the pesos? Well, he loaned them to Luisa. So a Luisa is represented with le, literally to or for Luisa. Le. We also have other indirect object pronouns. So instead of just to or for her, le, we also have to or for me, me, to or for you, te, to or for him or her, le, can also be to or for you formal, to or for us, nos, Two are for you all in Spain, os, and two are for them, or you all, les. So we see some examples in the fotos. Le damos 15 euros. So two are for you formal, we will give 15 euros. And he says back, well, te vendo las gafas en 25. I, two are for you, will sell the glasses for 25. Te vendo, two are for you, I will sell. All right, so basically, since le since le had so many multiple meanings, two are for him, two are for her, two are for you formal, it can mean so many things. A lot of times we will place a clarifier at the end with usually an a in a person's name, just to emphasize or clarify who we're talking about. So, Ivan le prestó un lápiz a Juan. If we left out a Juan and we just said Ivan le prestó un lápiz, Ivan lent a pencil to whom? To him? To her? To you formal? We don't know. So a lot of times we will just include that awan. This is really common if someone is like really spilling a tea in Spanish and they're given the details. Well, Ivan lent a pencil to Juan. Okay, awan. Right? We're just clarifying, and it also helps us know to or for whom the lay is talking about. Now, the second time around, after you've already specified Ivan le prestó un lápiz a Juan, we don't need to repeat a Juan the second time, right? If we say también le prestó papel, he also lent him paper. Well, we know because the previous sentence says we lent the pencil to Juan. Well, in this case, también le prestó papel, or we also lent him some paper. So we know that. It just makes it clearer having that personal I in there. So, ella les vendió ropa. So she, two are for them, or two are for you all, sold the clothing. Well, who is it? Is it for them or is it for you all? We don't know. So we clarify. Ella les vendió ropa a ellos. Just there as a clarifier. So we're going to give you a chance to practice these. Now, since if you're not making your own sentence up, and you're having to figure out which indirect object pronoun to use, as you'll be doing on VHL Central and on your exams, you kind of are looking for that personal a and the expression that follows to see to or for whom we're talking about. So, yo compré una cartera a mi padre. Well, I bought a wallet for my dad, a mi padre. We know we're going to use to or for him or le. Yo le compré una cartera a mi padre. Let's try another one. Mi tía, blank, compró una corbata muy fea a mí. My aunt bought a really ugly tie for me. So notice a mí is in parentheses. In real life, we probably wouldn't say a mí unless we were wanting to show emphasis or clarify in some way. We would know when we heard the me. Mi tía me compró una corbata muy fea. She, to or for me, bought a very ugly tie. Well, in this case, in this activity, we're giving you a mí to let you know to or for whom it's happening so you can figure out the me. All right, let's try one more. Mis dos hermanos, my two brothers, my two bros, compraron a mis padres un par de pantalones. So my two brothers bought my parents dos pares de pantalones, two pairs of pants. Well, in this case, they bought whom? Well, they bought my parents, a mis padres. So to say to or for them, we used les, referring to my parents, a mis padres. I would like for you to pause your audio. Please give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try. And when you're ready, you can click play and we will check our answers together. All right, let's see how you did. Número 3. Yo compré un suéter azul a mi mamá. I bought a blue sweater for my mom. So, a mi mamá, for my mom. I got the blue sweater to or for her. So, we used le. Le compré un suéter azul. Número 4. Mi abuelo compró muchos regalos a nosotros. My grandfather bought a lot of presents for us. So, a nosotros, we know we're going to shorten to or for us to nos. Mi abuelo nos compró muchos regalos. And finally, número 5. Y yo compré una camiseta bonita a mi novia. So, I bought a really pretty t-shirt for my girlfriend. So, for my girlfriend, for her, we're going to shorten to le. Le compré una camiseta bonita. All right, hopefully you're feeling better about those. One final note about these indirect object pronouns, I just want to talk about placement. Where do we put these? Well, if you always want to be correct, the easiest thing to do is to place them in front of your conjugated verb. So, for example, te compré un abrigo. Two or for you, I bought a coat. Or in English, we say I bought you a coat. In Spanish, the indirect object pronoun precedes the conjugated verb. So compré was conjugated, came from the verb comprar. So two or for you, I bought a coat. Te compré un abrigo. Two or for you, I bought a coat. If you have a negative sentence, the indirect object pronoun is going to go between the no and the conjugated verb. Literally, it's still going directly in front of your conjugated verb. So, no te compré nada. No, to or for you, I did not buy anything. No compré nada. Now, you do have some other options. I always tell students, if you are ever unsure, just place it in front of your conjugated verb. As we've done in orange, as we did on the last slide, it's never going to be wrong if you put it in front of your conjugated verb. Now, native speakers of Spanish tend to also sometimes place it either attached to the infinitive, which you see in blue, or sometimes attached to the present participle, which you see down here in green. So, for example, remember an infinitive is an unconjugated verb. It still ends in AR, ER, IR, to plus a verb. So we see an example. Vas a comprarle un regalo a Carla. Are you going to buy Carla a present? Well, you're going to buy it for her, to or for her. We place the le attached to comprar. That's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. Your other option, again, was to place it in front of your conjugated verb. So that same sentence, le vas a comprar un regalo a Carla. Are you going to buy a present for Carla? Well, in this case, vas was my conjugated verb, coming from the verb ir. So, le vas a comprar un regalo a Carla. Are you going to buy her a gift? So attached to your infinitive, comprarle, or in front of your conjugated verb, le vas a comprar. In other situations, you may want to attach it to your participle, like let's say you have like a gerund, like an ing. Estoy mostrándoles las fotos a ellos. So I am showing the photos to them. Estoy mostrándoles, showing them. We just attach the les to the end of mostrando. Now again, if you don't want to be wrong, if you're worried about this, it makes you uncomfortable, just place it in front of your conjugated verb. Les estoy mostrando las fotos a ellos. It's never wrong in front of your conjugated verb. So you have some options. Some common verbs that are associated with these indirect object pronouns, just based on their meaning, are the verbs dar, to give, and decir, to say or to tell. So dar is conjugated as doy, das, da, damos, dais, or dan. Decir is conjugated as digo, dices, dice, decimos, decís, and dicen. And these are just commonly associated with those indirect object pronouns. Again, notice usually either in front of your conjugated verb, as we see here. Mi abuela me da muchos regalos. My grandmother, to or for me, gives a lot of gifts. Or te digo la verdad. To or for you, I tell the truth, or I'm telling you the truth. In each of these situations, the indirect object pronoun came directly in front of your verb. Me in front of da, or te in front of digo. You can also see down here, it's attached to the infinitive. Voy a darle un beso. I am, to or for you, going to give a kiss. Or I'm going to give her a kiss, or I'm going to give him a kiss. We don't know in this case because we haven't specified with le, since it can mean any of those. So voy a darle un beso. No les estoy diciendo mentiras a mis padres. I'm not telling my parents any lies. No les estoy diciendo mentiras. In this case, again, in front of your conjugated verb. So just some options there. All right, let's pause and give you an opportunity, to practice. In parentheses, we've given you to or for whom these actions are affecting, so you know which object to choose. So, for example, in número uno, Marta quiere dar un regalo. She wants to give a present. Well, she wants to give a present to or for whom? To Elena. We know to Elena would be to or for her, so we shorten that to le. And we say that Marta le quiere dar un regalo. To or for her wants to give a gift. Número dos, Alfonso prepara un café. Alfonso prepares a coffee. Well, to or for whom? To or for us. So Alfonso nos prepara un café. All right, I'd like for you guys to please pause your audio, give numbers 3 through 5 a try, and let's see how you're doing. All right, let's check it out. Número 3, Guillermo y Alejandra escriben desde Cuba. So Guillermo and Alejandra, they're writing from Cuba. Well, they're writing to or for whom? To or for me. So we used me. Me escriben. Francisco y yo compramos unos guantes. Francisco and I are buying some gloves. Well, we're buying some gloves to or for whom? We're buying them for them. So to or for them, les. Francisco y yo les compramos unos guantes. And número 5, los vendedores venden ropa. The salespeople sell clothing. No way, really? Well, who are they selling to? To or for you, familiar. So los vendedores te venden ropa. They're selling clothing to or for you. Te venden ropa. Okay, amigos, as we wrap up our final grammar point of capítulo 6, this is gramática 6.4, titled Demonstrative Adjectives and Pronouns. We use these all the time in English. These agree in gender and number with the noun that they modify. Basically, the difference here is that demonstrative adjectives always appear directly in front of a noun, whereas demonstrative pronouns can stand alone. Other than that, we'll talk about some minor differences. Let's just start with demonstrative adjectives. In English, we say things like this, these, that, those kind of things. Those are demonstrative adjectives. So, este vestido, this dress. This would be our demonstrative adjective in English. Esos zapatos, those shoes. Those would be our demonstrative adjective in English. Aquella tienda, that store over there. That, again, is our demonstrative adjective. Okay, so as we look at these in Espanol, we have este or esta to say this, este or esta. Notice masculine, este with an E, esta, this feminine. So this, este and esta. To make it these, we really just add an S. So estas, or in the case of este, we change the E to an O and then we add an S. So this, este, esta. Those, estos, this, este, esta. These, estos, estas. To say that, we have ese or esa, or again, making it plural. For esa, we just add an S, esas, becoming those. Ese, to make it plural, we change first the E to an O, and then we add an S, esos. So this, este, esta, these, estos, estas. That, ese, esa, or those, esos, esas. A little jingle that I remember from high school Spanish. My high school Spanish teacher told us that this and these both have T's, and that and those do not. And that has just really stuck with me. So if you look at this and these, they literally do. They all have T's. This and these both have T's. That and those in Spanish do not have any T's. So este, this, ese, that. Esta, this, esa, that. This and these both have T's, that and those don't. Sending over here. Estos, esos. Estas, esas. So this and these both have T's. That and those do not. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. Finally, we do not have these demonstrative adjectives in English, but I'll use a picture of a cat in a moment to show a better example. But basically, if something is really far away, we use the word aquel or aquella to say that, or aquellos or aquellas to say those over there. So as we look at this picture of this cat, we have this cat right here. It's the closest one. Este gato. It is this cat right here. We know which one we're talking about. It's the one right here in front of us. Oh, but that cat over there, ese gato. Okay, it's still like in our vision. We can see it, but it's not super close. So este gato, it's right here. It's really close. This cat. Ese gato, we can see it. We know which cat we're talking about, but it's not super close. And then aquel gato, that cat like way over there. It's like down the street. It's further out of your mind. So este gato, ese gato, aquel gato. So you see them kind of spaced out. So those are your demonstrative adjectives. And notice they appear directly in front of a word. Este gato, this what? This cat. Ese gato, that what? Oh, that cat. It appeared directly in front of your noun. A demonstrative pronoun, on the other hand, they're basically identical to demonstrative adjectives, except they have an accent. So este, esta, estos, estas. Exact same words. They just have accents. For this and these, your accent's on the first letter, always on the E. For aquel, aquella, aquellos, and aquellas, your accent is also always on the E. So kind of easy to remember, always on the E. The only difference is that they carry that accent and they can stand alone. So, for example, we'll put them together for a sec. No me gusta este suéter. I don't like this sweater. Well, this what? This sweater. It's directly in front of sweater. There's no accent. I prefer ese. Prefiero ese. I prefer that. Notice I didn't say that sweater because in the previous sentence I'd already said sweater, so it'd be kind of repetitive to say sweater again. So the second one is a demonstrative pronoun. So again, it's a demonstrative adjective if it appears directly in front of a noun. It's a demonstrative pronoun if it stands alone. So, no me gusta este suéter. I don't like this sweater. I like that one. Prefiero ese. If I had literally said I prefer that sweater, I would say ese suéter, and I would not put an accent on the E. That's the only difference. If it's a demonstrative adjective, no accents, it appears directly in front of a noun. If it is a demonstrative pronoun, it stands alone and it has an accent on the E. Here's another example. Ella quiere comprar esa bolsa. She wants to buy that purse. Well, that what? That purse. Demonstrative adjective, no accent, it's directly in front of a noun. She wants to buy that purse. Quiere comprar esa bolsa. No aquella. Not that one over there. Well, that one over there, what? That purse over there. So in this case, it's not appearing directly in front of a noun, no aquella. So in this case, it does carry an accent on the E and it stands alone. Okay? Finally, you do have some neuter forms, and those are esto, this, eso, that, and aquello, also that. These stand alone. They refer to very like unspecified things, situations, ideas. So, for example, your family member walks in, ¿Qué es esto? What is this? ¿Qué es esto? Right, just walked into a crazy situation. Well, this what? We don't really know. This situation is just crazy. ¿Qué es esto? Or maybe you're just having a generic conversation with someone about some like super high level concept. We're talking about astrophysics, and I'm like, oh, eso es interesante. That's interesting. What exactly is interesting? Well, it's just some like idea, concept. Eso es interesante. Or aquello es bonito. Oh, that thing way over there. It's super pretty. Aquello es bonito. All right. So I want to give you a chance to practice these things. Gramática 6.4, again, talking about un almacén, a little department store. And you see two people, Gabriel and Maria, who are going shopping. You're supposed to go through and complete their conversation with the appropriate demonstrative adjective or demonstrative pronoun. So let's take a look. Maria says, No me gustan those pants. I don't like those pants. No me gustan. We're trying to say those. Remember, this and these both have T's. That and those do not. So, no me gustan esos pantalones. Well, we knew to use esos because there was no T, because it's those. Also, we knew to use esos because in this case, we're talking about pants, which is masculine and plural. So, no me gustan esos pantalones. I'm going to buy these. Voy a comprar estos, right? And in this case, we're saying these, so we do have a T. And we place an accent on the E because it's a demonstrative pronoun in this case, used by itself. Voy a comprar estos. Gabriel says back, well, yo prefiero those over there. I prefer those shoes way over there. Again, it's standing alone by itself, so we know it's going to be a demonstrative pronoun. We know it's going to have an accent. And it's talking about the ones that are way over there. So yo prefiero aquellos. Aquellos. Let's let you practice a little bit. I'm going to pause my audio. I want you to go through. I want you to work out all of these, and when you're ready, you can hit play. All right, let's check it out. So Maria says, sí, a mí también me gustan. I like those too. ¿Qué piensas de these cinturones? What do you think of these belts? Well, this and these both have T's. Demonstrative adjective used directly in front of a noun. So, ¿qué piensas de estos cinturones? What do you think of these belts? Gabriel says that these cuestan demasiado. They cost too much. So these, used by itself, going to be a demonstrative pronoun, going to have an accent. We should say estos cuestan demasiado. These cost too much. Maria says, well, también busco un vestido elegante. I'm also looking for an elegant dress. Do you like this one? Again, since it's not appearing directly in front of the word dress, she didn't say, did you like this dress? She's saying this one. It's going to be a demonstrative pronoun. It's going to carry an accent. We're going to say, te gusta este. Gabriel comes back very honestly and he says, no, es muy feo. It's very ugly. ¿Necesitas una falda nueva? Do you need a new skirt? And she says, well, he says, this one is very pretty. So again, this one, not this skirt. So it's a demonstrative pronoun. I'm going to carry an accent on the E. This one, referring to a skirt, which is feminine and singular. Esta. Esta es muy bonita. And Maria says, no, no necesito una falda. I don't need a skirt. Vamos, Gabriel. Let's go. Me gusta this almacén. I like this department store. Me gusta este almacén. We knew because it was masculine, it was singular. So I like this department store. Pero, that one over there is mejor. It's better. So that one over there, again referring to a department store. That store over there, far away. Aquel. Aquel. All right, amigos, I hope you're feeling better about your demonstrative adjectives and pronouns. I have just one final activity where I'd like for us to practice together. Again, you're doing the same thing. I'm giving you a clothing word from the very beginning, like la falda, and I'm giving you the demonstrative adjective este, or this, and you just have to make it agree. So we know falda is feminine and it's singular. So we took, instead of este falda, we said esta falda. Same thing here in número dos. We're given los estudiantes, the students, and este, this. We wouldn't say this students, we would say these students, right? So we need to take este, we need to make it agree. So to make it plural, we're going to change our E in este to an O. We're going to add an S, so we get estos estudiantes, these students. All right, I'd like for you to pause your audio. Please give the rest of these a try, and we'll take a look and see how you're doing. So, número tres, we're given los países and aquel. So the countries and those over there. So those countries way over there, we need to take aquel and make it agree. Make it plural, we get aquellos países. Those countries way over there. Número cuatro, la ventana en ese, the window and that. So that window, we know that ventana is feminine, it is singular. So we're going to change ese to esa. So esa ventana, that window. Número cinco, los periodistas en ese. So the journalist and that. That journalist sounds weird. We want to say those journalists. So we're going to take ese, change the E to an O, add an S. We get esos periodistas. Same thing in number six, las empleadas en ese, the employees and that. We want to say instead of that employees, those employees. So take ese, change your E to an O. It is feminine in this case, so change it to an A, and then add an S. So, esas empleadas. And finally, número seis, that boy over there, no agreement needed. Aquel chico, because it's already masculine, already singular. Aquel chico. Guys, I hope that this has been helpful to you. I always enjoy having a chance to share my love of Spanish with you in these videos, and I hope that it's been helpful. I look forward to continuing to work with you. And of course, if you have any question about anything whatsoever, please feel free to drop me an email. I'm always just a short call or email or a phone call away. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Gracias. Ciao.